That was fun. Before we get started, no, Shill Brothers Outdoors is not becoming a running channel. However, if you follow us on Instagram, you know that running, specifically trail running, is something Andy and I are really into. And then about a year and a half ago, I took this stupidity up a level and started getting into marathons. And when I got into marathons, when I was looking at doing some of these big city marathons, the first thing, much like a backpacking trip, I wanted to find some reviews on it. Check out the course, you know, aid stations, overall experience, parking, race day stuff, everything. And that doesn't really exist, at least not a ton on YouTube. So we're kicking off the marathon reviews. If we feel stupid enough to run them, we'll probably make a video about it. So today we are going to review the 2019 Cincinnati Flying Pig Marathon. Before we get started, yes, it's weirdly named the Flying Pig, and I didn't know what that was about. Something about pigs in the streets, and then they brought in an artist to make all these pig sculptures. Long story short, the official Cincinnati Marathon is called the Flying Pig Marathon. Quick stats about the Flying Pig. You get about 20,000 marathon runners, which is big. I mean, it's not as big as like New York City, which has like 50,000, but a race like Columbus, which is a big city marathon, has about 9. So the Flying Pig is already about double that size. Another thing that the Flying Pig Marathon is known for is it is hilly. I don't know if it's the hilliest big city marathon, but it's known as like one of the hilliest, and you cover about 1,100 feet of climbing. So to give you a frame of reference, you know, on the Columbus Marathon, you do about 200 feet of climbing. So it's like 5 times hillier. Let's talk about the course. So the first 4, 5, 6 miles is really cool. You kind of go through downtown Cincinnati, and then you cross the Ohio River and go into Newport, which is an area of northern Kentucky. And then you kind of work your way through that, back through downtown Cincinnati, and then the real fun starts. Then you enter some park. And that's where you start aggressively climbing. And I mean, you probably climb 500, 600, 700 feet over a couple miles, which is like almost akin to backpacking or trail running. Then you get to like mile 6, and that's where the fun starts. And I'm talking, you're covering 500, 600, 700 feet of climbing in a couple miles, which is like, that's like backpacking. So the hills take you through mile 7, 8, 9. Then you kind of go out into eastern Cincinnati, which is like the Marymount area. It's a little bit more rural, more suburban. It doesn't have that downtown feel. So you loop around there at about mile 15, and then 15 to 26, you're making your way back into downtown Cincinnati. And that's where, you know, basically mile like 16, 17 to like 23 is what I call the dead zone. And that's when like you really start feeling terrible, and there's just nobody around. You know, you don't have a lot of spectators because you're right before you get into Cincinnati, and you've kind of crossed all the big parties. So the dead zone in this marathon is like 18 to 22, 23. And then once you get to mile 22, 23, you're coming back into the city, and then you kind of start to get that urban feel, and then you finish right on the riverfront in downtown Cincinnati. Really great finish. Aid stations, what are we dealing with? When I sign up for a marathon, that's part of what I like to know. You know, when can I grab stuff? They kind of fool you a little bit, because if you check the official marathon site, they only have gel stations at mile like 18 and 20, but what they don't tell you is they literally are tossing food out every mile at this marathon. Food they had on the course, and this is not a joke. Let's see, we started with chili, Swedish fish everywhere. I don't know what that's about. That's a Cincinnati thing. Girl Scout cookies, Twizzlers, regular cookies, orange slices, mimosas.
Mimosas? What kind of race is this?
Beer, tequila shots because it was Cinco de Mayo, Pringles, pretzels, bacon, cheese, chocolate, gummy worms, and Oreos. That is not a joke. Like every mile, someone was dishing this stuff out. And of course, I ate most of it. I felt like that was kind of a cool challenge, you know, let's see how much shit you can eat during one of these things. That's a good overview of the course, of the aid stations. So you got stuff every mile. You're gonna have tons of food. Now let's talk about crowds. Tons of people. This is a big deal in the town of Cincinnati. The Flying Pig covers like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They have races every day. There's also a half marathon. It's in May, spring, weather's usually nice. tons of crowds, tons of people. It was freaking Cinco de Mayo, so it was like a party. I mean, literally you had people with trays of tequila shots. I drank some mimosa, I drank some beer. That was great. Just a huge party, great course. Logistics for this marathon, you know, every big city marathon is kind of a pain. You know, the starting line is at the Bengals Stadium, so it's right in the middle of downtown Cincinnati. So obviously, like, driving in is a pain. They had parking garages. What I did and what a lot of people do for this race is there's 2 hotels downtown. They give you a pretty good rate for the marathon, and we just stayed like a half a mile from the starting line, so that was perfect. Sidebar, a little fun thing, you know, the race starts at 6:30, so you gotta be in your corrals by about 6:10, 6:15. On the way leaving our hotel, the elevator was broken, so I had to walk down 29, not a joke, 29 flights of stairs to get to the race. So I was warmed up. Starting gun goes off at 6:30. They send you out in waves. My time is right around a 4-hour marathon. That put me in Corral D, so the 4th slowest. So you can imagine, you know, the elite people up front and then the regular people like me are way back. You do run with the half marathon. That's something that's similar with a lot of big city marathons. So you start with the half marathon, but unlike a lot of other marathons, the half marathon peels off at like mile 6 and then you don't see them for the rest of the time. We're gonna end these reviews with some pros and some cons. So, big pros for the Cincinnati Flying Pig. Great crowds, tons of people, a lot of energy, much so than other marathons I've done, more so than even my home marathon, the Columbus Marathon. It pains me to say that. The food and beverage options on course are incredible. I mean, whatever you want, they got it.
Handing out Pringles.
The bacon at mile 16 was actually really good. I also think the post-race they have down at the Cincinnati like River Walk waterfront area is really fun. Live bands, music, any vendor you want, food, drink, it's a big party, and it was May, so it's nice out, so great post-race. Now, what are the cons of this marathon? It's hilly AF. It's super hilly. It's hilly enough to where, like when I was running with people, basically they're like, this marathon, you're gonna add 7 to 10 minutes compared to another marathon just because it's so hilly. So if you're not prepared for that, it's something you have to train for, especially if you're just out on the road all the time and you live in the Midwest where it's super flat. You gotta do some hill training. So the biggest con, and I can't blame the course for that, is it's super hilly. Another con, and I kind of label this as a pro, but the food choices are pretty weird. I mean, 1 mile you're down in chili, the next mile it's a mimosa, the next mile it's some frozen Girl Scout cookies, then it's some beer. I think that's fun. That can weird a lot of people out, and a lot of people are really anal about what they eat while they're running. I used to be, then once I started getting into like the ultra marathon mindset where you're gonna have a bunch of weird food at aid stations, so get used to it. So now I train that way. You know, my training food is like potato chips, sugary stuff, pretzels, tortilla. I mean, it's anything that's in my fridge. So I'm used to it, but I can see that as being a con for some people. The food choices are a little weird. I mean, mile 17, you don't want to be facing chili. Overall though, this was a great marathon, honestly. You know, I haven't done many marathons. I certainly liked this more than some of the other ones I've done. The crowds were really good. And the vibe is just great, and there's so much energy, and when you get to the finish, it's just like a huge party and everybody's there cheering for you. And you know, marathons in general, once you get trained for it, I mean, it is really an incredible experience, and it's something everybody should run one at least once in their life, maybe just one. That's gonna wrap it up for this review. I don't know if we're gonna do more marathon reviews. I don't even know if we're gonna do more running reviews. But I had such a good time doing this Cincinnati Flying Pig Marathon. I wanted to make a video about it. I also wanted to make a video to help other people in the future. If they're interested in doing this marathon, hopefully this helps them. Little rundown of the course, what's going on. That's what this is about. I don't know if we're gonna do more of them, and we're certainly not gonna become a running channel, but you might see us doing more trail running and running related stuff, because it's Shill Brothers Outdoors, and running, you're outside, so it still counts. All right, that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you for watching. And if you're on the fence about doing a marathon in general, or if you're on the fence about doing the Cincinnati Flying Pig, just do them. Especially if you're in the Midwest area, you're looking for a big city marathon, check it out. Okay. Oh, God, these freaking medals are heavy. All right, we'll save the last 20 seconds for this. So there you go. It's actually pretty cool.
I tell you, I feel better than I did after the Columbus trip.
Yeah? How was it? The medal.
I just had the pizza.